Welcome to Madan no Oto Vanadis. The show starts with this couple introducing themselves as Eleonora and Vorn, and she says that she's now his new owner. We cut to their flashback where Reborn searches for his allies in the battlefield. Then he tried to ambush Eleonora but he got caught. Then we cut to another flashback of him getting bullied by this dude Zion Williamson for using a bow kinda like this. Lol, good luck on not getting killed for using a dumb weapon because Hawkeye didn't beat Thanos by using a bow and arrow. But Old Man Night here stands up for him to stop the bullying. Then he suddenly fingers his mouth and he wakes up getting fingered by a sword with his hot knight.
Yeah, boy.
And she says that Eleonora is summoning him. We cut to Old Man Night and he tells his maid that Vorn was captured and they need to pay the ransom money to set him free, but they can't pay it because they're still broke as fuck. We also see Vorn in Eleonora's office telling him about the ransom money, and if she can't receive her money he will become her personal sex slave.
Damn good deal.
Then she lets him do some target practice with his bow and he gets clowned for sucking at it. He sees John Wilkes Booth trying to assassinate Eleonora after he killed Lincoln. He warns her where he used her feminist power and Vorn shot his foot to prevent him from escaping, and her clam starts getting wet after that amazing trick shot. We cut to the next day where they discuss the incident yesterday, and she says that yesterday was a trial by fire for him because her army thinks that they're a couple or something, and by showing his bow and arrow skills they would shut the fuck up. She talks about the war where it was boring because they easily clap his army's asses, and she would definitely have killed him if he wasn't a great marksman. She invites him to be his pet but he declines because he still has a country to inherit from his dad. We cut to the next day where Agent 47 here became his personal butler because he wasn't killed after roasting his bow and arrow skills. Night comes and Agent 47 called him because someone is looking for him, and it's his personal old guy butler Alfred, where he tells Vorn that their kingdom is getting liberated. He tries to head out but Eleonora was waiting for him in front of the gate. She says that she can't let him go because he's their prisoner, and there's no fucking way a Hawkeye fan like him can beat thousands of enemies alone. She pointed her sword towards him and says that he needs to use her brain for once to come up with a better strategy. He begs her to lend him some troops and she starts laughing because she didn't expect this. She helps him and in return she needs to keep his motherland safe, and she tells her troops to prepare for the war. Dawn comes and we see the bully leading an army to liberate Vorn's motherland, and they start looting the place to show their dominance.
Welcome to Amazon Go. Take whatever you like. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go.
His soldiers reported a message back to him about the villagers leaving and he got pissed about it. Is this guy brain dead or something? Of course civilians would immediately get the fuck out if there was a war. Like why the hell would they risk their lives on staying in a war zone? Anyway, let's continue. The bully barges into Vorn's house and the maid tells that she'll sue him for trespassing.
Stop! You violated the law.
She tries to run away but he cornered her in the balcony and says that her pathetic master is a noob and is probably being sold as a sex slave right now. He was about to molest her but Vorn shoots his dirty rapist hands with an arrow. Vorn finally shows up at the last minute as per, and Kaicho Maid-sama jumps into the balcony in order to escape. The pair has some dramatic reunion where Braun says, "Bitch, why didn't you get the fuck out of the house? Go Shojin-sama, I stayed in your house to save your bow because this is the best gooning material you've ever owned." Great, another retarded character everybody. This dumb bitch can easily carry the bow while running, but instead she used her retarded brain to act like a retard. Doesn't matter. The battle continues and Kaicho Maid-sama gives the gooning netherite bow to him because this bow has been handed down for generations and he's now finally going to use it.
You know how long I've been waiting for this?
We cut to Zion Williamson raging about Vorn being a traitor for siding with Eleonora by bringing her army. Back to the allies where Kaicho Maid-sama asks the villagers for help to gather supplies, while Vorn and Eleonora are planning for the upcoming battle. We jump to the battlefield where they charge straight to the enemy. Vorn used his Hawkeye skills to headshot these soldiers. How in the name of Ghislaine Maxwell did that arrow pierce through a metal helmet? Is that a 50 cal arrow or some shit? Or maybe he has an aimbot and it pierced through the eye socket. Doesn't matter. They continue fighting and they walk onto the bully's trap where he brings out his dragon. Eleonora used her wind magic and split the dragon in half.
Fatality.
Zion starts panicking because the dragon died and he tells his army to retreat, but Vorn sees them and says, "Hey bully boy, it's too late to run away now, and I'll rip your ass to shreds after liberating my motherland." Zion Williamson challenges him to a duel to settle their gay beef once and for all. The duel starts where he roasted him for using a bow in a close range battle. He managed to pierce through Zion's arms by shooting in the same spot, and this makes Eleonora wet again. Both armies charge in to fight, and Zion used his dragon to escape. Sayonara! The netherite bow speaks to Vorn telepathically by saying to shoot down the bully. With Eleonora's sword giving the bow some power, he managed to use his power shot skill to shoot down Hiccup and Toothless. Then Eleonora declares the battle is over. We cut to a few days where Eleonora was summoned by her king, and she explains that she was hired by Vorn to protect his motherland. But the king got angry because she involved his kingdom in a war that they weren't part of. What do you mean you aren't part of? Your kingdom was literally at war against them in episode 1. That's it. Replace this king already because he has dementia. Then we see this big tit priestess standing up to Eleonora and explaining her reason with her big tits. As Eleonora waits in the palace halls, this girl roasted her for causing a war and her name is Ludmila. They start arguing but big tit priestess was there to stop them and her name is Sophie. Eleonora talks to Sophia the First privately. Then she explained that Ludwig's family is in contract with Zion Williamson and even though she hated him, she had no choice but to support him. We jump back to Vorn planning with his butlers to attack Zion Williamson's kingdom. A few days pass by and Vorn talks to Eleonora and she says, "Look, if you want revenge, I want you to be a part of my state because this is the king's order." Vorn hesitated to accept it, but she suggested to partner up with the 7 war maidens to ensure their victory, and he only needs 6 because she's a war maiden. Then Ludwig barges in and wants to talk to Vorn privately because she's also a war maiden. As they ride their horses into the woods, they got into a trap by some bandits, but they managed to defend themselves, and Knight Secretary here got bitten by a snake in her boobs. Then Vorn sucks out the poison.
Nice.
While Ludwig used some ice powers to kill the hitmans.
Lights up those numbers!
She roasted Eleonora for endangering her sexitary because of her wet clam simping to Braun, and they head out to find some doctor.
Help!
They arrive in the city and Hot Knight Sexitary is all healed up. We see some rom-com stuff as Ludwig leaves. Eleonora tells Hot Knight Sexitary to stalk her because she might send her army to help the bully, and her prediction was on point and we see Ludwig marching towards the bully's kingdom to offer support. We cut back to the gang strategizing and Eleonora lets Vorn decide if they should face Ludwig's army and he voted yes.
I will destroy you. I have an army of 60 million subscribers.
Ludwig heard this news and her army is hesitant to face Eleonora, but she motivates them to fight because her alliance pact with the bully is on the line. The battle starts and we see her solid defense fort where the gang struggled. They retreat for the moment and strategize again, and this time he'll use some bear skin to scout the area. As he hunts some food, he stumbled into Ludwig and she didn't know it was him. They stay in a cave to warm themselves and she recruits him to join her army because of his marksmanship skills. Is this bitch deaf or something? Like, how can you not tell that it's Vorn through his voice? He ain't even doing the Batman deep voice changer thing. Anyway, let's continue. He declines her offer and as they spend the night, he noticed her being all emo. He then says that he'll be her therapist for today and she can vent out all of her problems to him. Some therapy session happens until the next morning comes and the pair splits up. He stalks her on her way back and he found the exit way to the fort where they can attack. Then Ellen DeGeneres used her wind skills to open up a path, but the gate was heavily fortified. Then Vorn asked her sword for help, where it gave his netherite bow some wind magic boost, and he used his power shot skill again to open up a path and it worked. Then they start storming Ludwig's fort. The bitches face each other where they're equally matched. Then this assassin dude saw an opening to kill Ludwig, but Vorn shoots him down to save her. She slapped him for lying about being a furry and asked why the fuck did he save her, and the reason he did it's because it's a thank you gift for being so kind to him in the mountains.
Why, thank you.
She then decides to end her alliance with the bully, and she'll be neutral on the war from now on. They head to this nearby country, and this old guy thanked him for defending their border, and he gave him some troops to fight the bully. We cut to this meeting where Braun meets Sophia the First for the first time, and she delivered a message that he's been accused for treason, and his rank and possession will be confiscated by the king until this matter is resolved. Sophie tells Ellen about the reasons why the other 4 war maidens are not joining this war. Then we skip to a few days and we see this low-budget Guts Knight leading his army to fight against Eleonora and her army. The battle starts and Ellen was able to defend herself against Guts. She falls off her horse, then Vorn helped her escape by shooting an arrow on Guts' horse, and he was amazed on his arrow trick shot. Vorn was wounded after they've escaped. Then a mob of soldiers is about to ambush them, but Sophia the First shows up and holds the enemy back by using her fairy tale magic. She beats off the soldiers and low-budget Guts faces her. They start fighting and he breaks her barrier, but she teleports away after buying some time. Then one of his minions reports that they're getting ambushed from the sides. We cut back to the allies where they treat Vorn's wound. They've shared the info that they've gathered, and Old Man Butler here wasn't able to talk to the king. A few hours pass by and Eleonora promised Vorn to lead them to victory.
For Sweden.
Days pass and Vorn wakes up. He was accompanied by Kaicho Wamaid-sama as he heads out, where his bow leads him to this ancient ruin, and he yells out kinda like this, "Are you the goddess who summoned me?" Then the lolly maid got possessed and replied, "Lol, you came here on your own because you're just a horny doll, but I'll grant you some power because of this thing called plot armor. But first, you have to shoot this girl to prove your resolve." He shoots the maid and her clothes got destroyed because he managed to control his power right before it hit her. The loli came back to her senses, and the ancient temple suddenly disappears. Then he races ahead to the battlefield. Meanwhile, Guts gets a threesome with his two hot war maidens, but their magic won't work against him because his sword can nullify magic. Vorn shoots him as he arrives in the battlefield. Guts asks him if he hired them to protect his motherland, and he confirmed it because Zion was being a bully to him. Eleonora invites Guts to switch teams, but he can't because Griffith is under the king's command. Vorn's wound starts to open back and he used his power shot skill, and Guts' arms got paralyzed after parrying it and he surrendered. Vorn collapses and Guts retreats. Then we see the aftermath of the battle and Eleonora tending Braun's wounds. Days pass and Guts met up with them to offer his services for them to meet the king, and think of this as his compensation for the damages he caused. Eleonora receives a letter and she tells Vorn she needs to return home because one of her war maiden best friends is getting attacked and she needs to return ASAP because she's a cripple, and they promise to help each other out when someone needs help. Meanwhile, Guts heads back to set up the meeting with the king, but he gets punished instead for losing the battle. Vorn received the news of Guts' death, and we see him planning to lead an army to save captured civilians. The operation starts and they scout the area. As they head back, he saw this girl being chased by some soldiers. He saves her and introduces himself, but the girl collapsed. The next day comes and they've ambushed the enemy soldiers in a valley trap, and he kept doing this to dwindle down the enemy numbers. He meets up with the enemy and they start attacking, where he easily headshots their leader, and the enemy soldier starts running away.
Why are you running?
They freed up all the captured civilians. Then we cut to the evening where Agent 47 reports back to him about 30,000 soldiers heading their way. The next morning comes where he tries to slow down the soldiers and he sees Ludwig leading her army. We cut back to Eleonora meeting up with her crippled best friend, and she tells Eleonora about the recent attacks at her border, led by the Flashy Flash warrior or something, and Eleonora replied that she'll deal with this problem. They talk about how Ellen starts simping for Vorn. It makes her wet and says that she'll let her meet him someday. We cut to Vorn asking Ludwig for help. She agreed to help him, but he needs to pay her something valuable in return.
Good deal.
Meanwhile, Ellen leads her army to fight against this hot war maiden Lisa.
Nice.
The duel starts where Ellen struggled because of her electronic dominatrix whip, but Ellen managed to counter back and did some minimal damage. She then says, "Look, hot girl, as you can see, I'm just a decoy to keep you busy, and right now Zion's dad is marching his army towards your homeboy's motherland, so it's up to you to retreat or keep on fighting because I can do this all day." But she made another proposal to have a ceasefire for a year, and Eleonora agreed, where Lisa needs to apologize on the cripple for invading her borders. Both armies retreated and we cut back to Vorn and Ludwig, where they planned for their one and done attack against Osama bin Laden here. Then one of his lackeys reports a message saying that Vorn won't back out, and he commands them to launch a full-scale invasion to hit the Twin Towers. Then we see Vorn worried about the snow having an effect on the battle. They start the ambush operation and they manage to kill the 5th Division army of bin Laden, but he sends his 6th Division army as a reinforcement, and his army gets cocked because of exhaustion, but some of their reinforcement arrives and they turn the tables.
Well, well, well. How the turntables.
And this guy introduces himself as one of Guts' soldier, and Guts wrote him a letter before he died to help Vorn. Then another reinforcement arrives led by Alfred the Butler, and bin Laden was forced to retreat. We cut back to their base where they help all the people they've rescued. Ellen arrives where she starts beefing again with Ludwig for his dick. We cut to Ellen and Vorn's date night, where he apologized for getting many of her men killed, but she doesn't care about it because she only wants his dick, and they have some lovey-dovey moment. Politicians, am I right? They don't care about any of us Commonwealth pigs, and we pay taxes so that they can always make these fake wars every decade. Moving on, we cut to this meeting where the girl Vorn saved meets up with him, and she introduced herself as Rain, a former princess he met when they were young, and she's the one who Vorn taught how to hunt. They interrogate her and Eleonora asks, "If you're a princess, then how come you've cosplayed as a femboy?" "Actually, my mom made me do it because it's 2025 and children can now pick their genders, and also they didn't have a son to inherit the throne. That's why I've decided to become a member of the LGBT alphabet community at a young age so that I can inherit the throne." But Vorn is still skeptical about her royal status, and she told them a royal secret about her dad's capital city, where only the 4 royal families can enter. Vorn believes her and they plan to head there. We got to Big Bad General Guy here preparing for battle against Vorn. Then Vorn heard the news about the capital city being burned to the ground by Big Bad General Guy, but they still proceed with the plan and they meet up with him on the battlefield. And we see the 2 war maidens struggling against the dragons, and both sides retreated bed for the night where they strategize for round 2. The next day comes and they execute their plan, where the war maidens will aggro the dragons. Meanwhile, Vorn makes his army a decoy to show out without a gear, but come back to equip them and fight again, and the enemy starts running away because they've used some stones because they were caught off guard. That's a retarded reason to retreat. Like, you can still fight them. You have metal armors for fuck's sake. Anyway, we see the war maidens improving their teamwork and they beat off the dragons. We see them after the battle planning to investigate an old temple. Eleonora wants to join them even though Ludwig tries to stop her because war maidens like them needed to rest after an exhausting battle. But Vorn lets her join and says that she needs to prioritize the princess no matter what happens. They head to the temple and investigate this underground tunnel that the Jews in New York use. They saw this cave drawing of an archer fighting a dragon, but Big Bad General was there waiting to ambush them and they start fighting. And Eleonora starts fighting him 1v1. The cave starts collapsing and this white knight tries to kill Vorn.
Say hello to my little friend!
But Old Man Butler number 2 jumps in front to save him and the cave collapses. He wakes up and saw the dead white knight, and he found Butler number 2 lying in the ground unconscious. No way in hell that old guy didn't got covered by falling debris. Look at this scene. The man clearly got hit by falling rocks, and you're telling me he didn't get covered even with a single pebble? That's bullshit. Anyway, who cares? Then he says some final words of wisdom to Vorn, where he also starts glazing him for being a great leader, and he bled to death. We cut to Eleonora and her army heading back to the city. They saw this huge blast and they rushed to find Vorn in the crater, where he used his power shot skill to escape from being trapped. Look, another bullshit scene right there. How the fuck are they not disintegrated after that huge blast? Because there's no way for the pressure of that explosion to escape. I mean, that's basic science right there. Their bodies should have been decapitated after using that skill. Okay, enough science explanation. Eleonora calls for 911 and we see them back to their camp, where they got depressed after Old Man Butler number 2 died. Eleonora talks to Vorn to uplift his mood and says that she's been to many wars where many of her friends died, but she kept moving forward and these tragedies make her the person who she is today. He thanked Maid Girl for being always at his side, and after the war is over, he'll go back home to lead the motherland. He then proposed to make a new trading road kinda like the Suez Canal, so that his motherland can easily access the goods from nearby kingdom, and Eleonora and the gang will be there to support him during his rebuild. We cut to the next day where they got visited by Mao Zedong, and he's happy to see the princess still alive. He delivered the message about the princess's dad being healthy again after getting poisoned by Big Bad General Guy. Then he asked Vorn about his next plan, where he replied that he'll fight Big Bad General Guy, and after making the motherland safe, he'll go back to Eleonora as her sex slave so that she can keep the motherland under her jurisdiction. He approved of his plan and he needs to take the princess along with him because something's gonna happen at the Tiananmen Square.
We are Chinese people. Hello, please.
Then we cut to the final battle where Vorn leads them against Big Bad General Guy. The pair faced each other and they were like, I hate you. No, I hate you. No, I hate you very much. Well, yeah, I hate you even more. Oh yeah, I hate you the most. The duel starts where he'll face him with a single arrow, kinda like Rango. He shoots him and he got headshot, and Big Bad General realized he swung too early, like how baseball players swing early in a breaking ball pitch. And this is the reason he got striked out in the head. With Big Bad General's death, the war ends. Well, that was anticlimactic. I expected that there would be more fight scenes because it's the last episode, but I guess not. And I'm glad that it saved me some time to explain that shit. Anyway, they return to the capital as war heroes after bringing the princess back safe and sound. They see the king dead and he thanked Vorn for bringing back his daughter, and he'll grant any reward he'll wish. And he wished for his motherland to be a part of Eleonora's jurisdiction and the princess to be the next ruler after he dies. The king granted his wish and he also gets knighted as a bonus reward so that he can tap his daughter's ass.
Damn good deal.
Damn, this is some next level underground political manipulation right here. JD fans must start taking notes from this anime if he wants to be the next president. And that's the end of the anime. This anime gets a shogun out of a Mulan.
He's a woman.
You mean you're not a clumsy soldier femboy twink? Can't believe I fell in love with the chick.
I'm gay.